Hi, Cohort 44. Happy Holy Tuesday to you. I trust that wherever you are and however this Holy Week is shaping up for you, that it is going to be a time of refreshing, of renewed commitment to the resurrection story, and that this gospel that we've been charged with proclaiming wherever we go comes alive anew this week as we prepare for Good Friday, Holy Saturday, and of course Resurrection Sunday. And I know for those of you who are in local church ministry context, this week can be sometimes a crazy week. But I pray that God would just refresh you, strengthen you for the journey, and that on the other side, that just lives would be changed as a result of the gospel that's proclaimed on this weekend. So a couple things real quick that I wanted to touch on that I thought it'd be easier to do in video than to type it all out. I just got done doing a bunch of grading on both of your discussions, as well as your some of your submissions for your academic citations and your library submission. And a fantastic job on all of it, specifically on the discussions themselves. Yeah, of course, everybody met the minimum requirements and whatnot of your interactions. The minimum, but I think what I wanted to communicate most of all is how meaningful it was to watch everybody just go above and beyond that, of really engaging in robust conversation, of dialoguing, of learning with each other. And that's really what's going to cause you to get a lot out of this experience online, is being able to look at the stuff each other posts and to ask questions and really engage with that. So well done. And being able to look through and to read your resumes and your autobiographies was such an honor. And it's incredible that God has brought together not just a group that is globally diverse from different places, from different cultures and worldviews, but not only that, but a diversity of experience too. Some of the stuff that you guys have done is just absolutely incredible. And so I'm excited to see how this unfolds over the next 2 years, and even over the next several weeks as we continue on in this class. A couple things real quick that I wanted to touch on, specifically when it comes to citations. If you look in the feedback that I gave you, I did it all via Apple Pencil, so it's written on the paper exactly like it would be if you physically handed me a copy, and then I turned around and handed a marked up copy back. If you have questions on that, please just shoot me an email or a message in Canvas, and let me know. Unless something was actually missing, I didn't mark down points or anything, because this is purely an exercise to kind of fine-tune this skill. If you've been used to citations in the past, getting used to the author date, Chicago Turabian style is sometimes kind of like learning a new dialect of a similar language, so it can get confusing, specifically when it comes to comma and period placement, which I noticed that was pretty much kind of the common theme of, missing a period here or there. One thing in particular that I really wanted to touch on, because pretty much everybody made the same mistake, was when it comes to parenthetical references. So the reference within the actual text, body of text itself, when you quote or cite an author, at the end of the sentence, the period goes after the citation. So unlike the footnote method, where the footnote goes after the period, in an author date method, the period goes after the citation, so the citation is actually a part of the sentence structure itself. But if you're doing a direct quote, this is where it gets a little bit, it was a little bit difficult for me to get used to this, because it kind of triggered some particularities with me. But if you're doing a direct quote, so if the quote is, "To thine own self be true," to thine own self be true, no period, but end quote, and then your citation, and then your period. So it's a little bit different, but that was one of kind of a reoccurring mistake. The other was not indenting the second and subsequent lines of a citation. A couple of you had asked, how do I do that without messing up the sentence itself and making it just look all whatever the word is. And the easy way to do that is to hit return or enter and then indent. And what that does is that will essentially chop the sentence where your cursor is, and then when you indent, it'll indent it as though it were a new sentence. And so that should prevent it from looking weird. on that note, in your full reference, your works cited portion, I would encourage you heavily to lean into Fuller's Library. I use it literally all the time. I use it in my vocation and in my doctoral studies. It's a fantastic resource to have. But when you export a citation from like ProQuest or something like that, sometimes those links can be huge. I've exported links sometimes that are like 3 or 4 lines long, just enormous. And so it can make dealing with it in a word processing document very difficult, because it wants to choose a hyperlink, and then it just does a bunch of different stuff, and it's weird kind of cutting a hyperlink up in order to be able to put it in your works cited and whatnot. And an easy workaround to that I've started doing, that's been very, very helpful, and it makes my citations look very clean, is using a link shortening service. And what that is, one that I use is what's called Bitly. So if I go to bit.ly, I can simply paste the long link that ProQuest gives me into Bitly. It generates a short link, just a real brief little URL that I can then put that into my citation. The benefit of that is that generally you won't have to actually chop up that link because it's so small. And yet when it's clicked on, it can still route to the appropriate site. So I would encourage, it's not required to do that, but I would encourage you. It's made my life a lot easier when it comes to citing material, to use that a link shortening service like that. Other than that, that's all I have for you today. If you have questions about citations, feel free to reach out to me. I recognize it's a learning curve. It was a learning curve for me, getting used to going from MLA in my undergrad to Chicago Turabian in grad school. It was like relearning something that I didn't want to do even in undergrad, but it adds authority to your paper when citations are cited well. So I would encourage you to lean into that, ask questions. I am here as a resource, and I love talking about citations. I know that's weird, but I'm happy to help in any way I can. So I appreciate you guys, praying for you this week, and I hope you have a wonderful week.